So hello, good afternoon. Welcome to a new food4Rhino webinar. Sorry that my camera is broken today, so you might see me coming in and out. I need to activate it and deactivate it, sorry for that. And yeah, we have the pleasure to have with us today again the company Design and Develop. They have developed a new plugin for Rhino named Bocha, and this new plugin introduces commands and Grasshopper components to enhance some UV editing, remapping, and as well as adding some parametric modifiers components. Alberto Franco and Federico Trentin will introduce the plugin to you, first with a presentation, later with a live demo. Alberto Franco is the lead software architect for Design and Develop, so he's in charge of development for Jevero Pattern, Bocha, and some other custom tools. And Federico Trentin is the product owner for Design and Develop, so he's responsible for the account management and education of the software and doing training, support, etc. And yeah, we are very happy to see this new plugin that I think it can be very useful, especially in the fashion accessories industry. Remember that this webinar is being recorded and that there is a chat on the right side of the screen. Feel free to place there any questions or any comments, and then at the end of the webinar, I will have collected all your questions, and I will pass this to Alberto and Federico so that they can answer everything. So, Alberto, Federico, many thanks for being here today with us, and feel free to start with your presentation.
Thank you very much. I'm going to go first with this brief introduction. So, thank you, Carlos. Thank you, everyone, for being here. I'm just going to go ahead and share my screen. If I still understand Zoom, okay. Just going to go ahead and show. So, yeah, today we're introducing Bocha for Rhino, Bocha X Rhino, which is a new plugin that we've been developing for the last year or so, for the last few months. And it introduced, like Carlos was saying, some new tools for, let's say, enhancing some aspects that we think would look cool on Rhino. So this is just my brief introduction, just for giving you an idea, and then we'll have a demo done by Alberto, and then we'll have some time for the questions. So as a small introduction, we as a company, we're called Design and Develop, and we have been working in the footwear industry for more than 30 years now. Providing services for footwear, basically, which later on, some 7 or 8 years ago now, became also a software development company, which focused on products for footwear. So we are the guys responsible for Jevero, which is the pattern engineering plugin. And also, during the last few years, in 2020, we developed Bocha, which is a standalone project. And now, basically, we are introducing these some of those functions into Rhino, which we think looks very, very interesting. And yeah, we're looking forward to doing so with you. So, what is Bocha X Rhino? It is, of course, a Rhino plugin, which right now is free on food4Rhino and our website. And it introduces some new tools in Rhino, which can be interesting. So it's a redesigned UV editor. It introduces some parametric modifiers, like we see in some other software. It has a new layer management panel, a new management functionalities. and then some remapping tools which can be divided also in Grasshopper components. So basically remapping objects to other objects. We'll see very much in detail later during the demo. We also have a soft edit tool that is in the plugin, and of course we are planning to add more and more as we go on with the development. The reasoning application. So why did we make it? We first observed while developing and promoting and letting other people know about Botcha, we noticed that it was very it would have looked very good in combination with all the tools that Rhino has to offer. So as the software was growing, we decided also to develop some of those functionalities that Rhino lacked and we thought would look good in our main software. We decided to blend them together with Rhino. That was the main reasoning. And as Carol was pointing out at the beginning, it's something that can look good on like fashion accessories and stuff. And as a like philosophy, we like to keep things very generic. So we make them very horizontal, and all the tools can be applied to general modeling in Rhino. Which is the other point which I was trying to make in our sector, basically footwear and like trying to innovate in the footwear aspect. Rhino has many tools that are very valuable, of course, for like molds and soles development. And where we found was a little more that we could give our best was in the footwear upper visualization. So we already developed Jevero, which is like the upper pattern engineering, and now we wanted to try to bring this to also the modeling of the upper part of the footwear. So that was more or less the three main reasons why we thought this would work well inside Rhino. And yeah, that was basically what we're trying to achieve. So solve some of our industry's problem through some generic tools that we add into Rhino, which is a software that, of course, we like very much. Yeah, I have nothing more to say. Just thank you. And at the end of the presentation, we'll have some questions. And also, you can contact us at the emails that you see, and you see them also on YouTube. So just feel free to contact us for any presentation or question or whatever it will be. Thank you. Thank you very much. And I'll give the word to Alberto. I'll stop sharing.
Thank you.
So thank you.
Cool. So I'm gonna go a bit into the details of what Bocha X Rhino does more specifically. So I'm gonna start from the UV editing and unwrapping features that we have. And one thing that I want to show you here is exactly how we can get like good texture coordinates on a mesh or whatever. I have here a semi-prepared chair that has been already unwrapped, and this is a model I downloaded from the internet and brought it in Rhino. And this is, I applied a simple material that is these checker textures, and this is how it looked in the beginning. So what I want to do is I want to get some UVs on it and show you how you can then use the UV editor that we have built for the plugin. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to unwrap. When I unwrap, it asks me to select the mesh. It works also on sub-Ds and surfaces. And it's asking me the how many steps to do the iteration for the unwrapping and the size of the canvas. This is important. We're going to see it later, but let's pick a couple of components. I'm going to just let it run, and then we get some UV coordinates out of it. And if I select one object, I can see that in the UV editor here, the UVs are shown. Same if I go to another object, same here. And one thing that I noticed immediately is here I have some distortion quite clearly. And from the UV editor, I want to relax this, this UV further. And one thing that I can do is I click here and go for live unwrapping. And live unwrapping, basically, it's continuously iterate on the relaxation of the UVs, and so it gets me now a better layout. So I can click on apply, and the UVs are applied back to the original chair. And here we see that, yeah, these UVs are much better. Can do the same thing. So let me pick maybe also another. Oh, this one does not have UVs. I'm gonna wrap this here and here, and I have these three objects together in the UV editor. So I'm gonna go ahead and do live unwrap. This is gonna relax the three objects. I'm gonna apply it back, and then one other thing that I want to do is I don't want them to be overlapping like this, but I want to lay them out. So I can click on layout, and automatically the UVs will be laid out. And I can see that my chair look much better now, texture-wise, and let's say the texture coordinate and the distribution and the density of the texels. And this. Another interesting thing that I can do is if I want, for example, to constrain somehow the UVs, I can select some of these. So if I select them, you can see it's they're highlighted. With right click, I can pin some vertices. So the pin vertices are shown in red. And if I now want to, I'm going to pin also this one and start the live unwrapping. With this strategy here, now I can basically move the pin vertices around, and with the live unwrapping enabled, I am moving the pin vertices and relaxing again, re-unwrapping, and this is then giving you the possibility of stretching, for example, a texture quite a bit, or doing some very weird thing if it needs to fit pattern or whatever. And this allows me to very quickly edit the UVs, and then I can apply it back. And we can see that now the texture here has been stretched quite a bit. Then yet again, it matches what we found here in the UV editor.
Nice. Then, Alberto, one spontaneous question by René Medel. He asks if this UV relaxation works also for footwear upper flattening.
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a very interesting topic. And later, I have also another example. I will show how you can then bring this relaxation that you did in the model.
Perfect, thanks.
So as I was mentioning, it's important at the beginning when I unwrap to specify the size of the UV that will basically represent the size of this square, because then whenever I then select something, I can, once I have done my unwrapping and I have my texture coordinate as I want them, I can bring them back into the model, meaning By going to UVs, I can go to Add Document, and this will allow me to basically add the unrolled version, if you want, the unwrapped version to the model. And it will be consistent with the dimensions I specified at the beginning. So this one now I modified it quite a bit, but if I take this one and do the same thing, add to document, here it is. Maybe I didn't add it. Something wrong. Or there we are. And this one that is kind of straight, it's almost the same surface area as the original mesh. Of course, it's this is fairly simple. It's like unrolled, and that's it. But if you have a high curvature, like a last, something that has kind of weird curvature, it's gonna have some distortion. But the dimensions should be preserved in this conversion. In fact, I can also change if I want the dimension of this UV canvas by setting set UV canvas size. In this case, is 100. I can make 50. So it's gonna be, the dimension is gonna double. It's gonna be like as you can see, the texture density becomes higher. This is important also if I have a material that is scanned and I know exactly like the dimension of my scanning, I can then remap like the pixels so that they will have the right density on the object. There's quite a bit of tools in the selection. You can select by brush, by rectangle, select all the vertices, inner, or select by UV island. For example, if I change and go by UV island, if I click on an island, the whole UV island is selected. And let's say more, then you have a couple of visualization options so that you can visualize the material in the background, the texture that's there, or you can visualize a UV grid that is included, or you can have no background. There's a couple of options, and we are working on more like selection strategies and such. So this is more or less what you can find within the UV tools of Bocha. And another interesting thing that we've added, it's this model outliner, we call it. It's like the layer editor of Rhino. The only difference, there's a couple of tools that we thought were interesting, and it's like the possibility of visualizing single objects. So in this case, I have this armchair here, and all the objects are in here shown. So if I click like this one, select object, not really sure what I selected. Okay, very small thing, but maybe if I pick a couple more, select objects, then you can see that yeah, I picked a couple of objects around. And the same goes the other way around. If I select some objects in the model, I can go for locate objects, and then it's going to select them in the layer tree. And for example, I can create a layer starting from the object that I selected. So that's going to be like chair 1, and that's then going to be my new layer. There is a couple of it's basically like the layer tools, the layer panel of Rhino. There was a couple of things that we thought were interesting to have, and so we've added that. Cool. So the next thing that I want to show you is about the the modifiers and how they work. So here we are. So the interesting thing about this is that all of these objects are the same exact object. So this cube that I created. So this is, maybe I can go to shaded, which makes it a little bit more understandable. This is the normal object. Then I have here in my properties panel, we added this modifier tab, and we've added the possibility of basically adding a stack of modifier on top of the object. And this will not change the object per se, but it will change rather the render mesh. So I can edit, for example, I want to pull a couple of points here. If I pull these points, you can see that all the instances that I created within the modifier will be changed. So the interesting thing about this is that these are applied on top of the object. So they are parametric in the sense that I can change the base object, and then the render mesh will be affected. And then if I then need whatever comes out of it, I can always use the extract render mesh command from Rhino. And then I have this, doesn't allow me to pick it. There we are. And then I can always extract the render mesh, or I can directly go here and bake the modifier in. So the other 3D packages have this sort of possibility, and we thought it was interesting to have. And so we've implemented this, and there's a quite a number of it. This is, for example, the array. I can have array along the axis. This is 5, but if I need then 7 copies, I can change it. I can, in this case, for example, the modifier is a mirror. Now, everything I do on one side is mirror on the other. We've implemented a bevel modifier that's going to bevel your given some parameters. So like the angle, the amount of beveling, if the chamfer or not, and if to weld the resulting mesh. This has a weld modifier implemented in it with a very high degree. And then I can stack on top of this. For example, I can array on top of this. And yeah, so I can weld and then array, and then I can, I don't know, add a subdivision surface. So, and in this case, I can do a simple change. And then the change is propagated across the modifier stack, so that the resulting object that I have, the render mesh, it's a little bit more, I don't know, in this case, is smoothed, is welded, it's arrayed, and then smoothed with subdivision. And then I can always like go for apply, and apply, and then I have my mesh now has become the whole thing that I modeled with my modifier. So we have there's a list with the number of modifier that we've already implemented, and there are not that many at the moment, but we are working on adding more and more. And in this, user feedback is very welcome, as that's also the reason why we're doing this beta that Federico mentioned, that you can download from food4Rhino. Another very interesting tool that we have developed for Bocha X Rhino, it's the ability to remap from one object to another. And this is to me very interesting, and it goes back to the flattening question that we've had before. In this case, for example, I've already unwrapped this, and I obtained kind of this unwrapping. And one thing that I can do, I can add this to the document. So I have this weird, I don't know, thing that I modeled. And I have a flattened version of this object. And one thing that I can do, for example, is I can say, draw a curve here, or I can do more complicated things like model something. So I'm just going to create a box, because my modeling abilities are very bad. And I'm going to take these objects, and what I want to do is I want to bring them from the flattened version to this 3D version. I'm going to click on remap with the object selected, remap from one side to the other. And so now I have the objects that were in the flattened mesh that have been remapped in 3D. And for example, if I don't know, I want to take these two curves and pipe them. Now I have created these two pipes that if I wanted exactly, now I just draw some curves, but if I wanted to exactly do certain things in the 2D version, it would have been very hard to do. And the same goes for 3D to 3D. So if I then take this and say I want to I change this this object, I don't know, I'm just gonna cage edit it a bit just for showing. Now I have a design change, so this is my new object. For example, in footwear, this happens quite a bit. So you have a last change, and you have the new last. And one thing that I can do is then I have these things that were related to the first last. This happens in footwear, for example, but the same goes for whatever other industry. Then I want to change from this object down to this object. Oh, oops. Probably a bug in our plugin. I crashed it, of course.
Don't worry, this always happens in a live demo.
Yeah, of course, of course. So let's try again. Let's see if I can just do it, or if I'm gonna crash it again. Okay, I'm gonna do the same. Yes, I'll delete the cage. And then just gonna again create a small box. So I have this object, or I modeled something around a certain shape. I want to change it. No, it's not helping. Okay, should work, but it doesn't. I messed up the mesh with a cage edit.
Yeah, well, it's still good feedback.
Yeah. I'm gonna save this
from
file
ourselves.
Yeah, I'm gonna save this file to avoid. So the idea is that once I have objects, no, it doesn't want to work. Once I have a shape, I will be able to basically model in one simple way. For example, in this case, I can model things on the flat plane, which is much easier. And this comes from a very important need. So the need to model the uppers of footwear, which is something that is hard to do. And being able to reduce the complexity in this case, it's very important for us. So in this case, what we are doing is, okay, we model in 2D, and then we can bring the results from the 2D to the 3D, so that we have this very quick way of creating like a sketch in 2D, and then map it to the 3D object. And I think personally that this is a quite valuable tool. And for this, I wanted to show you like a simple project that one of our tester did. Yeah, so this is actual footwear. Hopefully, yeah, this was modeled in 2D on a flat, and then remapped in 3D with the help of this remapping tool. So it was fairly quick to create, and also all these accessories were modeled in 2D and then brought back to the 3D quite quickly. And the last tool that I want to show, and that I think it's fairly interesting, it's the soft editing tool that we've implemented. So what this does is basically, whenever I select a vertices on a mesh, this works just with meshes at the moment. When I edit that mesh, this transformation is passed down to the neighbor vertices, so I can like drag one vertex and get the other to follow. And there are several options, like in here, the one is how this is going to be interpolated. So in this case, it's smooth. It can be linear, or it can be with a sphere interpolation, or also with noise, which makes weird thing happening. And then I can see with this kind of heat map, I can also use the selected color. I can see how the edit will actually influence the mesh. And work to smooth, and I can increase the radius. So if I put 100, of course, much more vertices are going to move. And yeah, when I move, you can see that there's the transformation is applied to the whole mesh, and then not the whole mesh, but the part that are affected are highlighted, and that's a little bit like how the transformation will be brought across the mesh. And more or less, this covers, let's say, the tools that we have. There's a couple more that are very simple tools that help us with the modeling. One is the ability of generating from a closed curve a quad mesh, which then again it's very appreciated from the modelers because they can already start with a quad mesh. So in this case, I have this quad mesh. I can then extrude it and work with it. And so whenever I can convert it to sub D. If then I need, I can quad remesh it. And then there's a couple of like other tools for merging grips. So if I have like, for example, in footwear, you tend to model the upper flattened, and then you need to close it. So these tools allow you to help you close it. Or we have some projection tool for projecting from a 2D image onto a mesh. And then we are working on a couple of more tools for deformation and for again for generation. So like the ability of generating lacing, for example, for the uppers. That is very important for footwear, but we'll try to make something that is a bit generic and not just super vertical in footwear. As you can see, I mean, I have tried to avoid except that example specifically before example with that only has footwear, because these tools have been designed without a specific target, but trying to be as generic as possible. And with that, I think I have more or less covered, let's say, my the tools that we have. I'm not sure if there's questions or if
Excellent. Thanks, Alberto. Yeah, there are no questions, but there are a few comments. So Danny Machini says that the soft editor is a really nice feature, and Rene that the heat map is very cool, and Luis that the very nice functions. So it's great to see these new UV mapping tools in Rhino. My question would be, well, of course you can now convert the quad mesh to a sub-D model, right?
Yeah,
that's great. And are you using the same quad remesher that Rhino includes, or it's your own algorithm?
So we're basically generating for getting this quad mesh, we're generating a triangular mesh, which is a Delaunay triangulation, so a little bit more regular. Then usually Rhino tries to give you as less triangle as possible, which makes sense. And we do them a little bit smaller, and then we use the Rhino quad remesher to make it a quad mesh.
Nice. I don't know if the audience have any questions for Alberto or Federico. I don't see anything in the chat. No questions. Well, remember, well, this is still a beta product, right?
Exactly.
It's free to download from food4Rhino. And yeah, please, yeah.
Yeah, and if there's people that tries it or that finds like, oh, this is interesting, maybe for example the heat map is something that was implemented because somebody is asking us. So somebody that tried said, yeah, this is, at the beginning there was this kind of coloring here, which is from the selection color down to zero, and people said, yeah, I don't understand the thing with that. Can you please implement a heat map which is a little bit more readable?
Yeah.
So yeah.
Luis Sepulveda says that he's trying to download it but can install. Okay, let's send an email either to food4Rhino at McNeel.com or directly to the design develop team, because we need more details.
Yeah.
Why it doesn't install. And yeah, thank you again. Remember, this is being recorded, so if you missed any part of the webinar, it's already available from this same YouTube link. And it was shorter than expected, but very, very nice, very well concentrated, all the information, and very nice features. And I hope the number of downloads now will increase and you will get much more feedback from the users.
I hope so.
So maybe see you
Sure, okay.
in another few months to if there are any news about either Jevero or Botcha. Okay. And yeah, thank you again. Thanks to the audience, and have a nice afternoon, evening. Thank you.
You too.
Cool.
Thank you very
Thanks.
much.
Bye-bye.
Thanks everyone for joining. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.